been doing a lot of work on the question of leadership, communication and how the two interrelate. In fact, we did a global study at the end of last year called the Ketchum Leadership Communication Monitor, where we looked at the views of nearly 4,000 consumers in 12 countries around the world on leadership on the one hand, communication on the other, and how the two relate. And what was really striking was globally a real sense of disappointment in leaders, in how they lead, but also how they communicate.
And why is that?
Well, I think that it goes without saying that the economic climate has not been helpful. But I think if we looked at the level of people's disappointment, there was actually a 28 percentage point gap between people's expectations of leaders and how they felt they were delivering against those in pretty much every market around the world. Credible leadership around the world involves a combination of three things: decisive action, open, transparent communication, and the personal presence of the leader. And if any one of those three parts of the formula falls away, then the credibility diminishes. What was striking, perhaps a little surprising, was that globally banks actually came in fourth in terms of the list of sectors that were providing effective leadership. But again, a very interesting game of two halves, that in the UK, the US and Germany, for example, banks were not seen to be behaving well. In fact, in the UK, only 12% of respondents included banks in their top three, 22% for the US and 21% for Germany.
And finally, can you just tell us, what are the perception of leaders in China and compared to, say, a market like Europe or the UK?
Well, I think China across the board showed greater confidence and trust in their leaders, particularly political and business leaders. But there was a real sense that the Chinese want leaders who are open, consultative, and listen and act on what they hear from their many, many stakeholders.
But the initial findings found that this was quite high, right? The numbers in China were quite high.
It certainly was high, perhaps the highest of any market in the world. And again, this reflected a schism between the US and Western Europe versus markets like China, India, Brazil and South Africa, where generally perceptions were seen to be far better.